I'm Nathan Judah. That is Wolverhampton Wanderers reporter, Mr. Liam Keane. Liam, it's day 2.
It is.
In sunny Marbella. Earlier start today, slightly earlier, to change and get away from the heat. It was still a little bit sticky. It's sticky now, but this morning wasn't too bad.
No, it was definitely better than yesterday, wasn't it? I mean, yesterday was crazy hot. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is boiling here.
Yeah.
But they moved the training about half an hour earlier. I've done a longer session today because they're not doing an evening/afternoon session. They're going to be in the gym instead. Then they've made a slight change to their schedule because the heat is pretty intense. I don't blame them. I mean, I don't want to be out here watching it for too long either. So makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of ball work today, a lot of pressing, a lot of quick movement. It was interesting.
It was
more fitness based.
I was going to say a lot of fitness as well. Yeah, a lot of sort of intricate short passing. You've got those sort of miniature goals they use, which I always what would you call that? A miniature goal?
Mini samba goals.
Yeah, that's it. Samba goal. I knew the name for it. Using those and doing sort of 4 or 5.
Lawnmower guy coming on.
Lawnmower's coming on. Well, we're just going to crack on.
Don't need that. Okay, yeah, crack on.
So we should crack on?
Yeah, crack on.
It'll be alright.
Yeah, it's fine, yeah. Baggies defenders aren't worried behind us. Stood still.
And yeah, it was very much intricate, small spaces, keeping hold of the ball possession, and then with fitness work involved in that. And then a lot towards the end of playing 7-a-side games, penalties, having a little bit of fun with it, and it's something I'm going to focus on in my next written piece that will be out relatively soon about the sort of camaraderie and team spirit here. It feels very different to last summer. It's something I won't go into too much detail now on video, but want to keep an eye out for the subscribers. So yeah, subscribers, exactly, because you've got to get that plus subscription, £2 for the whole of pre-season. I wanted to chat to you about a couple of players, one who we know very well and one who is one of the newbies. Let's go with the newbie first. Pedro Lima. Yes.
Caught the eye a little bit, I felt. Did to me yesterday. It's good to see him in the flesh, and I think you're starting to maybe come around to my thinking that we might see quite a lot of Pedro Lima this season in the first team.
Yeah, let me sort of set the record straight. Let me put it into perspective. So, some of the podcast that we recorded yesterday, and the video, and looking.
You haven't listened to it, why?
There you go, exactly. And I watch Pedro Lima, and I see a guy who probably being just turned 18, needs a little bit of time, probably needs to bulk up a little bit, and that's my sort of, I suppose, cautiousness when it comes to a young lad coming in. And then I watched him last night at the training session that we were on. What was it, about 5-ish, half 5-ish, so we were here, and I mean, he looked a top player. He really did last night when I watched him. First touch sublime, really quick out of his feet, brilliant time runs in behind, very much wing back sort of vibes, but I think he obviously can play right back as well. Attacking, flair, dynamic, quick, strong as well. He was bodying players and rolling off tackles and dropping the shoulder. He looked really good last night. And I think it's still fair because he's only just turned 18, he's moving to a new country once they're back in the UK, and I think he does need a little bit of time still, and I think you need to expect the will from him straight away. Nelson Semedo's coming back and is a top player, but I think we maybe what you said on the podcast might be true. We might see a little bit more of him than I probably expected.
Yeah, look, I mean, like you say, physicality wise, it's going to be a learning curve, isn't it? Not for 1 second I expected to be starting at Arsenal in the first game of the season, but at the same time I would expect him to be on the bench, I think, for certain, and I would expect him to be learning pretty quickly. I mean, Matt Hobbs, Gary O'Neill, Fosun, they've done their work, they've done their homework. They wouldn't be spending £8 million on a top talent from Brazil if they didn't really rate him and see him as a viable first teamer sooner rather than later. Well, the price tag says it all there, doesn't it? Just over, was it about 8.4 million, wasn't it, in pounds? The Wolves, as I say on the last video, they're not in the position. Wolves have not got the luxury of spending that kind of money on players and not getting something out of them. Yeah. He's a player that, for obvious reasons, because he's a talented footballer, was going to go to Chelsea before he came to Wolves. So, it's sneakily one now to keep an eye on. It's exciting. It is exciting because I've given a lot more, I wouldn't say praise, but maybe more anticipation and maybe a little bit more pressure to Rodrigo Gomez and Jorgen Strand Larsen, because they're a little bit more experienced, a bit more senior, albeit Rodrigo Gomez is still pretty young himself. But I think Pedro Lima might be exciting one for this season. Yeah, you mentioned Larsen and Gomez. It's just exciting. It's exciting to watch these players in action, but also to see fresh faces there. I mean, I think the vibe's great. Everybody's having a laugh and a joke, but at the same time, when Gary O'Neill's on that pitch, when they're doing the work and the intensity of that work, they're right on it, aren't they? I mean, you know, a stray pass or whatever, they're being hard on themselves. They want to get it. It's not just like going through the motions here. I mean, they're geared in. They're absolutely focused.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even when they're having a little bit of fun down here in the pitch behind us, Pablo Sarabia missed a penalty, which I'm hoping might be a good omen for England on Sunday.
He was fuming.
And he was fuming.
Slamming his hand on the ground. That's what you want to see.
Exactly, but not to the point where he was making it awkward or a scene for the players around him, but just annoyed with himself.
You want him to care.
Exactly, you want him to care. And you saw that with a lot of the players. It's when the right time is to have a little bit of fun, like with that penalty shootout or with the seven-a-side, they're having a little bit of fun. When it's the right time to be, you know, taking it serious, training hard and getting ready for the rigours of a Premier League season, they're certainly doing that as well. At the moment, it looks like a perfect mix.
Absolutely does. So we talked about Pedro Lima, and another person who we all know pretty well is Daniel Podence. Look, a bit of a surprise to people to see him out here. We know that Fabio Silva, Gonçalo Guedes are not coming out here, but Daniel Podence finished the season very, very strong for Olympiacos, and look, he's, whether you like him, whether you loathe him, he looks pretty good here. He looks pretty good.
He looks damn good.
Look, it's, you know, his finishing, his ability, he looks in great shape. A lot can change, of course it can, and you know, I guess the likelihood, especially at this moment in time, is that he's not with Wolves to start this season. But at the same time, when you look at the wide players, when you look at the width, when you look at what Wolves do need squad-wise, is the answer staring you in the face, or will that need a change from Daniel Podence in his attitude and the way that he sees his next 12 months going forward?
I think if he makes it very clear that he wants to be at Wolves, that's a big game changer. We've not really seen that from him in the last few years. He's been someone who makes it pretty clear that he probably doesn't want to be around the place at times. Bit spiky, as you know, the phrase I keep using. But if that changes somewhat, you know, if he makes a decision that, you know what, I'm at a Premier League club, I've got an opportunity with 1 year left on my contract to go play top level football, I want to be here, I think Wolves could do worse than keeping hold of him. I really do. He's looked sharp, really, you know, he's working hard on the pitch as well as actually, you know, showing off a little bit, cutting inside, his finishing superb, tight spaces, little tricks here and there. He looks confident, he looks happy when you watch him play, but as I say, we've seen things off the pitch with him that would suggest otherwise. So I think if it's a change in his attitude to it, there's a chance. But again, it also depends on what Gary Neal wants.
Well, exactly, and I'm going to say, like, absolutely 100% we'll be speaking to Gary Neal at some point this pre-season, and I think those will be one of the questions about Daniel Podence, about what he's shown and, you know, where he sees him going forward, because you've got to say, at least at this stage, he's got a lot more chance of potentially staying than Gonçalo Guedes or Fabio Silva.
Well, he's here and they're not, so that says everything you need to know. I mean, I would still say I'm relatively confident that his future does not lie here at the moment. But those factors all counts. But
he's not down in tools. Well, you know, he could be disinterested. Look, you could say there were a few characters, especially last season, who seemed disinterested, weren't bothered coming off the pitch. You know, they were maybe on their own in the hotel or whatever. Head was down. It wasn't a great atmosphere to be around. That was not the case here, and especially for Daniel Podence as well. He's right in the mix, and that's good to see, regardless of whether he stays at Wolves or not. Yeah,
exactly. At least he's not making himself a nuisance, which has happened.
Which you do a lot.
No need for that. Which has happened in the past. So yeah, it's one that I'm really intrigued to see where it goes, because talking from a purely football point of view, Wolves need attackers, wide areas, particularly. You know, we don't want to gamble with Pedro Neto. I think he'd be really useful in the squad to do.
You talk about wide areas, you talk about the Spanish connection, you talk about, you know, a certain Sarabia missing that penalty. Well, let's go to another Spaniard, because you spoke to the Spaniard yesterday.
I certainly did. Hugo Bueno, managed to catch him, just a quick 5-minute chat off the training ground, and had a, I mean, he's always been a good interview and a good guy to speak to, because he's come through the academy. I think he's relatively well grounded as a person. I've interviewed him a few times, so I think, you know, it went pretty smooth. But considering that he didn't really play as much as he would have liked to last season, particularly from the start, had a couple of niggling injuries. There's been a lot of, you know, links with other clubs. He looked really happy. He looked like he was delighted to be here. You know, pre-season's going well, and that again I think is testament to the culture and the atmosphere they've been able to create here. So yeah, I'll have a bit more from Hugo to come pretty shortly in the newspaper and online. So yeah, keep an eye out. He's I think he's a good player. I think he's a good Premier League player. I know I didn't tell Hugo, but I know you don't rate him as much.
Wow!
I didn't tell him that, but I know.
That's absolutely astonishing.
I know you slag him off. So I'm joking. Yeah. I think Wolves would do really well to keep hold of him and have him as a really good member of this squad that is going to challenge to get into the team. He's going to have to challenge. Aït-Nouri, you would imagine, is going to have a starting berth, provided he can play further forward, that is. But yeah, I like Hugo Bueno. It was a really good chat.
In terms of schedule going forward, so today's Thursday.
It certainly is. I'm losing track already.
Yes, it's Thursday. So we understand they're going to be training every single day while they're here.
I think so.
And then they've got the game against Como on Monday.
They certainly do. They certainly do. And I think they're going to be throwing in sort of extracurricular things as well. I think they've got something planned for tomorrow to sort of better team bonding. So all of these things go into creating hopefully the perfect atmosphere and package for a pre-season. And that Como game will be really good. I mean, I think the plan is for it to be here and be, behind closed doors and quite slow pace to some extent, I would imagine. But just to see a few of the new faces in action for the first time.
See a couple of newbies bang a couple of goals in.
There you go, exactly. We'll take that.
That's the end of day 2. Join us day 3 tomorrow, where we'll be hot, sweating and uncomfortable somewhere else, but we're bringing you the video.